today's news, government rolls out the highly anticipated $62.9 million stimulus plan, and BVI Airways explosive audit under criminal investigation.
NHI was never properly funded, said Premier Foy. All this and so much more when 284 News returns.
We understand that you cannot come to the store and encourage you to stay at home. If you need assistance with bill payments, top-ups, or troubleshooting, we are here to help. Call us at 444-4444 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, or visit our website at www.cctbvi.com. Click Top Up Here or My CCT for top-up or bill payments. Social distancing with CCT.
A pleasant welcome, everyone. It is Friday, May 29, 2020. Welcome to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes. Welcome, everyone, to 284 News. This one, Javon, I think is going to be quite a hefty newscast. As we said in the beginning, the government just rolled out their stimulus package, so we want to jump right into that.
Like you mentioned, Kyla, Premier of the Virgin Islands, Andrew Foy, last night revealed Phase 2 of the economic response plan to the tune of $62.9 million. Now, guided by the Coronavirus Economic and Fiscal Stability Task Force headed by the Financial Secretary, Premier Foy said that this plan will not utilize any money from the territory's reserves. Listen in.
Because we understand that the hurricane season is upon us, seismic activity in the area is continuing, and COVID-19 has not been eliminated. Hence, we have to leave room in case, God forbid, the BVI is struck by a disaster. Left with no alternative, your government reached out to the Virgin Islands Social Security Board, which has agreed to provide the people of the British Virgin Islands with a special COVID-19 grant in the sum of $40 million towards our efforts at providing social and economic relief and stimulating economic activity.
So, viewers, like we heard, this package will be facilitated by a $40 million grant from the Social Security Board, coupled with a $17 million grant from Social Security Board's Affordable Home Construction Project, a $2 million grant for infrastructure, and $3.9 million from central government. And of course, that will make up the $62.9 million package. Now, let's break things down a bit, viewers. There is, first of all, $10 million allocated for unemployment relief. So persons facing unemployment as a direct result of COVID-19 is now set to benefit from that money, from that relief fund. Of course, compliments of the Social Security Board. Eligible workers will receive income for a period not exceeding 3 months. However, compensation is on a case-to-case basis. Application forms will be available from Tuesday, June 2nd at the board, and persons are now encouraged to submit completed forms as well as provide the supporting information in a prompt fashion to allow for fair review. We move along to $6.5 million being allocated for business grants. And I know, Kyla, this is something that persons have really been rallying for leading up to the rollout of this stimulus plan. Viewers, again, this will be discretionary, based, and business owners must make a genuine effort to retain their staff. So, Kyla, basically the government of the Virgin Islands is going to provide these grants to allow businesses to keep their doors open, as to not have to lay off their staff. Now, applications for this are open as well from June 15th, and you are to contact the Ministry of Finance as well as the Department of Trade and Consumer Affairs. Viewers, $1 million has also been allocated for hospitality-related businesses, and we know for sure that these businesses, Kyla, were some of the heavily impacted as a result of COVID-19. Now, with closed borders, we know for sure that the tourism industry was brought to a standstill, so these monies will be allocated to, like, again, those hospitality-related businesses to experience some level of cash flow as we feel our way out of this pandemic. So once contracted, these hotels will be paid to host the returnees, that is the overseas whether it's the residents or citizens of the BVI, when they return for mandatory quarantine. Of course, government mentioned initially that this will be funded by the government of the Virgin Islands. So those hotels, the owners rather, they're asked to contact the BVI Tourist Board and the Ministry of Health and Social Development. Then there is also, viewers, as we wrap up, a $3.9 million allocation to what we're calling the district fund. Now, Kyla, $300,000 under this fund will be given to each district representative, who then will be able to directly assist persons with pressing needs within their respective districts. In addition to that, each at-large representative will receive $400,000 each to disperse. So it's very important to note that this assistance will be in addition to any other help provided under the other initiatives proposed earlier, viewers. So the Premier is saying basically that if you have a need within your district and you can justify it, of course, you are to now contact your relevant district representative. So Kyla, quite an extensive plan. I mean, these are just parts of it as we try to dissect the rollout last night. We're going to continue to break it down throughout the newscast today, but finally we see a plan being rolled out under the government of the Virgin Islands.
Most definitely, as you said, very extensive plan. Definitely something that the people of the Virgin Islands have been awaiting. I think as I was listening to the rollout last night, one thing that really stuck with me was accountability and criteria. I see where we have the rollout of the help for business, for small businesses, and it says one of the criteria is to genuinely try to retain staff.
Right.
But how will the government keep business owners and entrepreneurs accountable as it relates to retaining staff and what they really and truly use this money for? And I think that's for a lot of different areas in the economic stimulus. I think we're still waiting to see what are some of the criteria coming forward. How will these monies be allocated, and how will it be distributed in a fair way? I know we've been hearing our Premier Foy said, and this is one of his punchlines, we're definitely trying to help the needy and not the greedy.
That is true, but you know, some persons will try to slip through the cracks. And like you said, a lot of the initiatives rolled out, Kyla, are discretionary based,
right,
which means it's really up to the government to monitor. And the Premier did mention last night that he will be keeping a close eye specifically on the business grant aspect of the stimulus plan to ensure that we're reaching the people who are truly in need, like you said.
Definitely.
And not those persons who are necessarily trying to exploit the system.
Most definitely. But Javon, as we move on, more out of last night's press conference. Now, the Premier of the Virgin Islands, Honorable Andrew Foy, he admitted to the people of the Virgin Islands that the National Health Insurance, which we call the NHI, was never properly funded from its inception. He described the ordeal as a harsh reality. Premier Foy explained that, and I quote, in an effort to support NHI to ensure that our people continue to get adequate health care, especially during COVID-19, $7.5 million from the Social Security grant has been allocated to ensure the health and safety of our people. He expressed the importance of all medical providers, pharmacies, and other entities, regardless of size of these businesses, being able to benefit from this grant. Premier Foy assured, and as we said before, that he will be casting a vigilant eye on this to ensure that everyone benefits.
All right, Kyla, I think this is really important indeed because especially like you said, we are living in a pandemic, one that is directly affecting our health, and our national health insurance is very critical at this point. So the supplementary support, I do see it as a necessary step because we want to ensure that all persons have equal access to effective or relative health care, but also that the system continues to function. So good job from the Premier there, I think, as it relates to NHI. Viewers, there's a lot more ahead. The BVI Airport project is now under full investigation, and those details, you would be so surprised as to what we have to come. Stick with us.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, viewers, we've all seen the roadworks taking place around our capital here in the BVI as the government of the Virgin Islands prepare for the new traffic transformation initiative in the Road Town area. Premier Foy said in his address last night, and I quote, "Your government through the Ministry of Transportation, Works and Utilities has used the curfew period productively to test our traffic transformation strategy, which involves creating alternative routes and parking solutions." Hear what Honorable Andrew Foy had to say about this traffic transformation initiative and how this will create opportunities during the territory's economic recovery.
Your government promised to fix the traffic congestion in the capital, Road Town, Tortola, Virgin Islands. Now is the time to address this problem, and we must not let the perfect become the enemy of the greater good. Your government, through the Ministry of Transportation, Works and Utilities, has used the curfew period productively to test our traffic transformation strategy, which involves creating alternate routes and parking solutions. There is a follow-up simulation exercise scheduled for June 1st. You will recall that integral to this strategy is a park and ride system to create a pedestrian-friendly city. Designated public parking will now be located at the festival grounds and the vicinity of the Dr. D. Orlando Smith Hospital, with a shuttle service looping around the capital between Road Reef and Bargus Bay, when this initiative is officially launched. We call it From Roundabout to Roundabout. This is an excellent opportunity for our taxi operators who have been unable to work due to COVID-19 to get back on their feet, take care of themselves and their families. Through the Social Security grant, we have allocated $1 million towards, among other things, to engage local licensed taxi operators to provide a shuttle service, as well as to transport returning nationals and residents to government quarantine facilities as needed.
Yes, viewers, we heard it from Premier Foy. He basically explained that this park and ride service will create opportunities for our taxi operators who have been greatly affected during this pandemic. Here we see taxi operators being presented with an opportunity to provide shuttle services. And the Premier also mentioned that taxi drivers will assist in the transport of nationals to the government quarantine facilities when the borders reopen. Javon, I really love this story because I see opportunity for our taxi drivers. They have been a cross-section of our populace who have been I would say affected from the very beginning. From time our borders were closed, our tourism sector definitely took a hit, and our taxi operators as well. And the Minister of Transportation, Honorable Kai Rummer, is scheduled to meet with the Taxi and Livery Commission to discuss and implement this program. This program will also be rolled out in Virgin Gorda, Anegada, and Jos Van Dyke. The Premier promised for that more information will become available as this initiative is scheduled to be launched next month.
Good news for the taxi drivers. I know that's one of the main concerns we had as they play a critical role to our tourism industry, transporting our tourists all across the BVI, and they were heavily impacted as a result of what's happening with COVID-19. I mean, they literally depend on the tourist dollars. So I'm very happy to see that the Premier, within his stimulus plan, including opportunities that will create what he's calling pedestrian-friendly capital through the shuttle service. Like you said, they will be transporting the returnees, the persons overseas returning to the BVI, BVI
Yeah.
who will need to be quarantined to the relevant hotel facilities. And so I think it's a good goal for the taxi drivers.
Most definitely, and we definitely want to remind persons of the simulation exercise that will be on June 1st. So the Ministry of Transportation will be doing an exercise, simulation exercise through this new route for persons to become familiar. So this is held on June 1st. So definitely come out and be a part.
Definitely. I know Honorable Kai Raima, as the minister who's leading the charge, is very much excited about that. We've seen clips of various aspects of the rollout, but definitely June 1st, we're looking forward to the exclusive premiere. Viewers, we have to move right along to a very heavy story, probably the heaviest in our newscast today. The premiere yesterday during the House of Assembly laid on the table of the House the long anticipated and controversial Auditor General's report on government's financing of BVI Airways direct flights to Miami. Now, viewers, we would all recall the BVI Airways controversy. This was one of the main points of attack by the present premier when he was leader of the opposition in the previous House of Assembly. The then premier, viewers, Dr. D. Orlando Smith, was repeatedly questioned on the BVI Airways deal, which eventually went sour, resulting in BVI losing out on $7.2 million, with no flights becoming a stain to the Dr. D. Orlando Smith's administration at the time. Now, viewers, this report by the Auditor General, whose office is completely independent of political influence, lays out in detailed fashion all the details of the one-sided agreement between the government and BVI Airways, the failed attempt of BVI Airways to establish direct flights to the U.S. mainland, the ill-advised actions of government in relation to the BVI Airways operation, and the subsequent abandonment of the operation of BVI Airways. The report comes to scathing conclusions in relation to BVI Airways' role in the failed operation. Now, one conclusion was that, quote, the manner in which the project was introduced and progressed suggests that the operator parties were attempting to take advantage of the territory's existing airlift issues by providing a solution that would guarantee them above market returns without the financial risk, end of quote. Now, viewers, another hard-hitting conclusion coming out of the audit report was that, quote, the framework agreement that was crafted by the operator parties and the framework agreement was crafted by the operator parties and heavily favored their interests, end of quote. Yet again, we see the Auditor General pointing out another instance of BVI Airways' failed obligations, writing, quote, the operator parties were required by the terms of the framework agreement to submit quarterly financial statements, and this did not occur, end of quote. Now, viewers, in addition to these conclusions, government's blunders in relation to this venture were majorly criticized in the report. The Auditor General lists 8 main ways that government, quote, erred, which include, quote, contracting an airlift agreement with parties who lacked relevant industry experience and operational contracts, end of quote. Now, in relation to Neil Smith's role, the former financial secretary, the report said, quote, assigning the individual in charge of the government's finances to serve as the primary facilitator to implementation, there was no higher financial authority to question or prevent his decision to make any and complete payments to the BVI Airways, which were contrary, viewers, to Cabinet's authorizations. Now, the Auditor General concludes the report with 7 recommendations that would avoid such a debacle in the future, one of which includes demanding accountability from the former financial secretary, Mr. Neil Smith. Now, Kyla, wow. This is big. I think this is a big story coming out of the British Virgin Islands. We know as of yesterday, it was announced by Honorable Premier that the Auditor General's report is now under full criminal investigation. We saw within the House of Assembly as well yesterday, member for the 3rd, Honorable Fraser, really pushing for the governor to be reprimanded in light of the fact that the government thinks that the governor may have dragged his feet on presenting such a critical, or I should say an implicating piece of document before the government of the Virgin Islands. according to the members of the House of Assembly, Governor Jasper would have breached that 3-month statutory required period for them to not only peruse the document, but discuss it, debate on it within like I said, the protocol timing. So a lot to digest here. But when you go through this document, Kyla, and it's a 47-page document, you really have to wonder, what were we thinking? Now, first of all, viewers, how do you enter into such an agreement, mind you, with people who basically never did this before? Then secondly, we see elements from the audit showing that the parties did not follow through with the initial contract. And it really places another character, Mr. Hyman, who, Kyla, has been a questionable character from the inception, from the time Premier Foy started digging in on this project. He's definitely under the microscope now, because it appears, according to what is reflected in this document, that he may have been an accessory to the crime. I mean, this man, as we know, it was hired to represent the British Virgin Islands interests, but within the document we see indications that he was more so representing the interests of the other party, which is a conflict of interest. So lots of blame to go around, Kyla. A lot of people have been heavily implicated. And I have to say, based on what I read within this 47-page document, I'm really extremely proud of the Premier of the Virgin Islands, the Premier-led government as well, for pursuing this at such a serious degree, because it seems that the company may have at least tried to hustle the government out of $7.2 million. And I think that is just mind-blowing.
Definitely. It's a lot to digest.
Yes.
Definitely a lot to digest, Javon. But I think we should take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Eco? 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 Everyone is speaking about eco-friendly products. We wanted to take the time to introduce the Eco Island brand. Eco Island is a brand dedicated to providing you with a reliable and cost-effective solution. Eco-friendly products for your restaurant, hotel, bar, office, and home. With takeaway trays, bags, cups, paper straws, cutlery, and cleaners. For more information, follow us at Eco Island 100.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, just yesterday, the Social Security Board of the Virgin Islands inked a $17 million contract with James Todman Construction Limited to reinstate the Joes Hill housing development, which will establish 43 residential units to first-time home owners. The project was initially intended to begin in 2017, but was put on hold due to Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Javon, if we can just stop there, I think it's just a sight to see how much, even in 2017 and now in 2020, how much the hurricanes of Irma and Maria is still being mentioned, how much it plays such a role in the BVI. And I think I'm just so happy to see these projects being picked back up and reinstated. But as the story goes on, hundreds of applications were already received in 2016 and 2017 from interested persons, and I can only imagine in the coming months, persons will be notified if they are eligible to move on to the second stage of the application process, that is providing banking documentations and proof of mortgage eligibility. The homes will be funded from personal mortgages from the bank. The Joes Hill development will be the first community to be built as part of the SSB's First Time Homeowners Initiative. The community will house a total of 25 buildings with 43 residential units on 7 acres of land. The type of units varies from 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedroom units with allocations for commercial spaces. Now, the Social Security Board Director Antoinette Skelton told attendees of this ceremony, this project is a game changer, especially for some young persons. What we find is that many can pay monthly payments to the bank, but when it comes to the initial investment, that 20%, that is difficult. Those are the people we are trying to address, first-time homeowners. She continued, it could not have come at a better time. There are many persons in the territory who are unemployed due to COVID-19. This project will put 17 million initially into the economy, and the money will have such an effect. Javon, definitely an amazing story coming out of the Social Security Board. We know this have been an initiative for quite some time that they've been trying to start, but definitely an initiative that I love to see. Helping first-time homeowners specifically, this will be targeted towards young people to get their first home. Yeah.
I agree with you. It's definitely a great opportunity for, like you said, first-time home owners. But Kyla, $17 million, 43 homes. If you do the math, viewers, that's almost $400,000 per unit, which a lot of residents, ever since the announcement, I mean, it was made yesterday, but reiterated last evening by the Premier of the Virgin Islands under the economic stimulus rollout, a lot of persons are of the opinion that this seems to be a bit much for affordable housing. So we have to continue to look at those numbers. And like you said, it depends on the type of home. It might be a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or a 3-bedroom. Right. But the allocation per unit just seems to be a bit much. Viewers will continue to monitor that. But nevertheless, again, a long-awaited project for the people of the Virgin Islands, and we are excited about persons being able to benefit from that. Now, viewers, in addition to all we've touched on today as it relates to the government's economic response stimulus plan that was rolled out last evening, we just want to, get into a few more additional initiatives that were rolled out. First of all, we also see $2 million, like the Premier said, being allocated to agriculture and fisheries. Now, that was rolled out within phase 1 of the economic stimulus plan as we know it. Many farmers applied within that initiative, but as of right now, the Premier is saying that opportunity is still available. So persons can reach out to the relevant authorities, that is the Ministry of Education, Culture, Agriculture, and Fisheries, of course, led by the Honorable Dr. Natalia Whitley, I think from June 5th to apply under that project. We also see $1 million being allocated for daycare centers, private schools, and churches. Now, Kyla, daycares for sure has been a topic of interest, and private schools as well. We know under the public system, government has secured just about 500 laptops in addition to what will be donated for persons, for students rather, who will need to use the equipment for virtual learning. Nevertheless, we did not see much help being extended to private schools and daycare centers. So we see $1 million being allocated in that regard. Also for churches, $9 million for housing repairs. And like you said, we are approaching the hurricane season. Persons are still healing, still recovering from the disasters of 2017. And as we head into hurricane season, very scared, I think, very fearful of not feeling safe within their homes. So $9 million is now allowed for persons to secure some type of relief in that regard. We also see $2 million being allocated for the East End Sewage Project. And that's pretty interesting, Kyla, since we can remember a massive $8 million under the predecessor government, that is the NDP government, being transferred from, and I mean, this broke headlines, being transferred from the sewage project in East End to the Tortola Pier Park project. So when we look at $2 million, the question remains, how far can that go? But nevertheless, we see some money is being allocated here. And finally, viewers, there's the BVI EC amnesty program, which was mentioned again under phase 1 of the rollout. But after last night's announcement, it seems pretty independent of government's stimulus, since that was not included within the breakdown of the $62.9 million. And also, it's very important to note that this project will be strictly governed and monitored by the management and board of BVI EC, and again, on a discretionary basis. So this is based on if they think the person or the business qualifies for the relevant relief, and that is to be applied for the months May, June, and July. So overall, viewers, a very compact rollout of government's response to the crippling impacts that COVID-19 has had on the territory. We did post a poll as well to see if persons were satisfied with government's response last night, and up to press time, 60% of voters said yes. So a lot to digest. So we will be breaking it down further as we continue on sometime next week on 284 News. But viewers, we have to say goodbye for today. That is it for today's news roundup. So you can follow us for daily updates at 284media.com. You can also like us on Facebook at 284media, as well as 284BVI on Instagram, as well as Twitter. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes. We'll see you again next week as we deliver your daily dose of local, regional, and international content. 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news right here on 284 Media. Have a happy Friday and an amazing weekend, everybody.